to my future spiritual path. Around the age of 12, I had similarly vivid encounters with my great-grandmother Alessandra's soul after she died. We were very close while she was alive, and I loved hearing her stories about what it was like for her to move with her family from Rome to New York. I remember watching her cook meatballs in a cast-iron pan and picking fresh mint and basil with her in the garden. My great-grandmother actually lived with my uncle for many years, and when she passed away, he left the majority of her room intact. I often snuck into this area to feel her presence around me. I'd touch the white and ruby-red rosary beads that still hung on her bedpost, run my hand over her paisley bedspread, and hold a small porcelain doll that usually sat on her dresser. I could feel her energy surround and envelop me as I did, and I knew her soul was with me as I interacted with the objects she'd once adored. A few startling encounters with spirit occurred when I was young, too, which often happens to intuitives, though many don't publicly talk about it. When a psychic medium hasn't learned how to establish boundaries, all kinds of energy, some better or higher than others, can reveal themselves to her. This first occurred when I was 9 years old, and a thick, opaque shadow with a tall, broad form and pointy ears passed outside our living room window. It scared the bejesus out of me. I ran upstairs crying and told Mom that a scary creature was creeping around the house. This didn't seem to faze her, as she tried to calm me down. What Mom didn't reveal was that she'd serendipitously arranged to have a psychic over the next day who cleared the negative energy from our home. Mom never told the psychic what I saw. The woman sensed this on her own, and 10 years actually passed before Mom even told me about what made the negative energy disappear. Believe it or not, the experience with the shadow wasn't half as terrifying as when Spirit revealed the extent to which I could forecast sickness and death. During my great-grandmother Alessandra's final month alive, I could smell her illness and impending passing. It was a thick, stale odor. And in my early teens, when my friend Lori and I were at a wedding together, at one point she looked to me as if she were engulfed by a misty gray cloud or aura. I had to squint to see her face. It was confusing because Lori was such an upbeat and joyful person. What I saw wasn't in sync with her personality. I never said a word about it to anyone, but the next day I was devastated when my mom told me Lori had died from a sudden illness. I'd seen it coming, in a way, and the gravity of this realization weighed on me. Having the foresight to know a person might die, yet no capacity to affect such an outcome, was extremely heavy and hard to process, especially as a child. My abilities continued to open and expand into my late teens, and thankfully the large majority of them were positive and fun. I dreamed of other time periods in France and Italy that I believe were past lives, and when close family members died, they'd playfully pay me a visit. I remember gathering for Sunday dinners with my living family and seeing deceased loved ones at the table, too. My mom is also intuitive, and she and I began having the same dreams about my departed grandmother and my Aunt Rose. We could both describe what their hair looked like, what they were wearing, and what they talked about. To a T. It had become increasingly clear that I had a stronger intuition than the average bear, and the more I accepted it, the more Spirit validated it. I'd guess songs on the radio before they played or know how a conversation would go down before it happened. With the exception of sensing illness, which I tried my best to tune out, I was no longer startled or surprised when I could exercise my psychic muscle. In fact, I got a real kick out of it. I considered my abilities to be a pretty cool gift that I was born with, the way some can tinkle a song on the piano by ear. But I still couldn't use it consistently or at will. Being my mother's daughter. Most of the women in my mom's family are, or were, while they were alive, psychic to varying degrees, so I was taught to embrace my random experiences and abilities as part of who I am. This didn't conflict with these women's faiths, since the northern Italian matriarchs in my life always embraced a cultural blend of spirituality or mysticism and organized religion. So many Italians do, though most don't realize or acknowledge it. For instance, the Italian horn, or corno, is meant to protect against the evil eye. It's been said to represent the Virgin Mary standing on a lunar crescent. But even further back, it's thought to symbolize the old European moon goddess. Or what about St. Padre Pio? He was an ordained priest who bore the stigmata, but also had healing gifts and the ability to read souls like angels. Though both spiritual and faithful influences were all around me, I was never raised with a religion. My dad didn't subscribe to one, and after Mom gave birth to me and my brother, she left Catholicism and embarked on her own spiritual quest.